Welcome to NTD News. I'm Paul Graney. Here are today's top stories. A wildfire has ignited close to the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library outside Los Angeles. This as the area is already struggling with an extreme red flag warning fire. The Federal Reserve cuts interest rates for the third time this year. We look at why and how the economy is doing overall. John Sullivan fielded questions from senators at his confirmation hearing to become the U.S. ambassador to Russia. Sullivan currently serves as a Deputy Secretary of State. Congressman Devin Nunes says personnel within the U.S. intelligence community leaked information about calls between President Trump and foreign leaders. And Chile withdraws as host of the Apec trade summit in November as protests continue to affect the nation. President Trump and China's Xi Jinping were planning to meet there. A fast-moving wildfire has threatened thousands of homes and the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum outside Los Angeles today.
The fire that broke out in Ventura's Simi Valley has quickly grown to 1,300 acres. A long wall of orange flames and thick gray smoke could be seen just down the slope from the hilltop Reagan Library, which houses many of the former president's records, including the Air Force One jet he used for official travel. At least 2 helicopters dropped water on the flames. Fire officials ordered residents to evacuate the area around the library, which includes a number of sprawling ranch properties. Firefighters carrying payloads of flame retardant swarmed the area as flames closed in on the library campus. Authorities worried that the high winds could spread flaming embers around the region and could make it harder for aircraft to drop water accurately on fires.
And in Northern California, power outages and fires are ongoing. Many people have been forced to leave their homes, but some insist on staying. NTD's Eiling Ang has the story.
Most fire refugees leave their homes to stay in evacuation centers like this one in Santa Rosa.
We were evacuated Saturday, so we've been here since Saturday.
But there are also some who stayed behind.
This area is actually north of Santa Rosa, and it is under mandatory evacuation. But there are some residents here who still choose not to leave.
A man was watering his lawn as we passed by. We stopped to ask him why he's still here. His wife is at an evacuation center, and his mother is currently living in a relative's home. Only he stayed behind.
Figured if I could do something to try to save the place, that's what we can do, And we're also, a lot of our neighbors took off, and so I'm keeping in touch with them, feeding, like there's a neighbor 2 houses down, they had to leave their horses, so we're taking care of them, feeding them.
Since PG&E shut their power off on Saturday, he has been powering his home with a generator. He's a self-employed concrete construction worker and says he's fortunate to have a lot of equipment.
I got a trailer that's full of water, and so I have pressure, so I could, if I really had to a point, I could fight the fire as much as I could, but of course I'm not going to try and endanger my life.
But due to the nearby fire, many roads are blocked off, and people cannot freely go in and out, so his business is closed for now.
If I go out, they won't let me back in, pretty much.
A sign drew us to another home. Looks like the owner is also in.
They get pats on the back all the time, but this is actual personal experience. They came in there with those trucks and got the fire out here. I don't know how it's doing everywhere else, but it can't be good, but they're doing their best. I really, truly believe that.
He has lived here for 33 years and doesn't plan on leaving unless the fire is right in front of his home.
I didn't have anywhere else to go. I don't want to go to the shelter. I stay here. I needed to protect my animals and my place. This is all I got.
He says legally, authorities can't make him leave, but says people should still listen to the evacuation notice.
If it comes to that, I will leave, but it hasn't come more than maybe, I don't know, a quarter mile away or something. They've been battling it out, maybe half mile.
As of 3 p.m., the Kincade fire has burned nearly 77,000 acres and is 30% contained. Eileen Ng, NTD News, Santa Rosa, California.
The Pentagon tonight released video footage of the raid that led to the death of the Islamic State's leader. Marine Corps General Kenneth McKenzie Jr. gave a play-by-play of the Special Operations Forces raid on an ISIS compound in northern Syria. After U.S. troops closed in and demanded his surrender, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi killed himself with a suicide vest inside a dead-end tunnel. Overall, U.S. forces killed 6 ISIS members in the raid. Mackenzie said Baghdadi's explosive vest also killed 2 children he had brought with him. Baghdadi's death is a milestone in the global fight against ISIS. He was later buried at sea after a DNA test confirmed his identity. The Federal Reserve today cut interest rates for the 3rd time this year. The Fed is looking to boost the U.S. economy and prevent it slipping into a recession as it weathers a global trade war.
We believe that monetary policy is in a good place.
The Fed lowered rates by 0.25 percentage point to a target range of between 1.5 and 1.75%.
We took this step to help keep the U.S. economy strong in the face of global developments and to provide some insurance against ongoing risks.
The ongoing risks he sees are threefold: unsettled trade deals, slowing global growth, and declining manufacturing output and business investment.
Looking ahead, we continue to expect the economy to expand at a moderate rate.
The rate cut comes as the Commerce Department announced good news for the economy Wednesday. Commerce data showed GDP expanded at a 1.9% annualized rate, higher than was forecast. A Bloomberg survey estimated growth would be around 1.6%. The gain mainly reflected strength in consumer spending, which exceeded expectations. U.S. stocks opened modestly higher on Wednesday. Investors were digesting another set of earnings reports as the news of the Fed rate broke. This is the 11th year the U.S. economy has reported positive growth. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
U.S. stocks advanced on Wednesday with the S&P 500 closing at a record high for the 2nd time in 3 sessions.
Hopes of a rate cut and recent optimism around the trade talks had helped lift the benchmark S&P 500 to record intraday highs for 3 straight sessions.
I think the Fed partly learned a lesson last year, right? There was such expectation of a move in December that didn't come, and the markets imploded. So I think this also reflects a little bit of learning how to communicate, and they want to make sure we don't have an expectation going into December.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 115 points, the S&P 500 gained nearly 10 points, and the NASDAQ Composite added 27 points.
U.S. Deputy Secretary of State John Sullivan had a Senate confirmation hearing today. He faced questions about election interference and the ouster of the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine.
Sullivan, the 2nd highest ranking official at the State Department, is President Trump's nominee to be the U.S. ambassador to Russia. But he is now under scrutiny for being the official who told Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch she was being recalled early from her Ukraine post. Her ouster is now central to the ongoing Democrat-led impeachment inquiry. Sullivan said at his confirmation hearing Wednesday he was told only that Trump had lost confidence in her. He stated he believes that she served the U.S. well.
In your view, was there any basis to recall Ambassador Yovanovitch early?
Yes, there was. The president had lost confidence in her.
The president had lost confidence in her?
Yes.
And you were told that by the Secretary of State?
I was.
Did you ask why he lost confidence in her?
Yes.
And what was the answer?
I was told that he had lost confidence in her, period.
Sullivan faced intense questioning from committee Democrats. When asked if Trump or his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, had advocated withholding nearly $400 million in military assistance to Ukraine in exchange for the opening of a probe into former Vice President Joe Biden's family, he said he couldn't say. However, he emphasized the president's desire to fight against corruption.
And I think you said, and I think everyone has said and agrees, that if it was strictly a political rival to be investigated, that would be wrong. What happens if the political rival is somehow involved in corruption in the Ukraine? That becomes a lot dicier question, does it not? Whether a president has to look the other way if indeed a political rival is involved in.
Trump denies wrongdoing. He and his supporters dismiss the impeachment probe as a Democratic effort to overturn his 2016 election victory.
The top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, says that leaked details of calls between President Trump and the leaders of Mexico and Australia in 2017 were the product of intelligence gathering.
In an exclusive interview, Nunes told the Apec Times that he was prompted to investigate after sources confirmed to the House Intelligence Committee that the leaks were based on intelligence products. He said it was clear in January that unmasking was occurring, starting with a Michael Flynn transcript that was distributed.
And then you slowly had the ambassador, the Australian prime minister, you had the Mexican president, plus stories that we were seeing out in the mainstream news media. It was clear that somehow people were getting information from intelligence, what appeared to be intelligence products.
A Senate investigation determined that during Trump's first 126 days in office, leaks flowed at a rate of 1 per day. Many of them were meant to damage or ridicule Trump or his associates, roughly half of which went to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Nunes also confirmed that the FBI investigators failed to brief the Congressional Gang of 8 about the probe of the Trump campaign. The revelation that the intelligence community was spying on a sitting president is the latest development in the scandal surrounding the spying on Trump's campaign. It comes amid a House-led impeachment inquiry into Trump.
The Trump administration issued a rule last year that allows states to ignore parts of Obamacare. Today, the Senate defeated a Democrat-led push to overturn that rule. The rule expands waivers to Obamacare. To get the waivers, states have to show that they can ensure access to equally affordable and comprehensive health insurance, show that the same number of people will be covered, and that the waivers won't increase costs for the federal government. The Senate only needed a simple majority to pass the resolution, but it failed 43 to 52, with only one Republican, Susan Collins of Maine, backing it. Chile won't host the Apec trade summit in November, nor the COP25 climate summit in December. Its president made the announcement today, citing several weeks of violent protests.
The Apec summit was scheduled for November 16th and 17th and would have brought together 20 world leaders, including President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Riots, arson, and protests over inequality this month have left at least 18 dead, 7,000 arrested, and Chilean businesses hit with losses of around $1.4 billion. The capital city's metro public transport suffered nearly $400 million in damages. President Sebastián Piñera's popularity is at an all-time low. Chileans are calling for new protests, and the United Nations is sending a team to investigate allegations of human rights abuses.
As president for all Chileans, I have to always put the problems and interests of the Chileans, their necessities, and their hopes first.
A White House official told Reuters that the cancellation of the trade summit caught the U.S. by surprise.
Up next, a Pentagon official says the U.S. needs controls to prevent Chinese students from stealing IP and technology. This amid concerns China's military is disguising itself as scientists. It is disguising its scientists as students. More on that after the break.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled, and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
Next, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich talks about what U.S. politicians and the business community got wrong about China.
Speaking at the University of Southern California to promote his new book, Trump vs. China, Facing America's Greatest Threat, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich said the Chinese regime didn't partially open up its economy in order to embrace democracy, but so it could compete in economic might, and the West would then have to put up with its dictatorship.
The Chinese Communist Party is today a Leninist totalitarian system.
He said there are stark examples like the persecution of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. He said he once asked a senior Chinese official for comment.
And with a totally straight face, he said to me, "You shouldn't think of them as concentration camps. Think of them as boarding schools." Now, these are boarding schools with machine guns. He said, "We're trying to educate the Uyghurs to be good Chinese, so we're doing them a favor."
And there's the repression of all spiritual beliefs, including the peaceful meditation practice Falun Gong.
But Falun Gong was a mortal threat to the system because the number one characteristic of Falun Gong is it teaches honesty. And if you're in a totalitarian state, what matters is what the state tells you, not what honesty tells you.
Gingrich said that America is not falling behind in terms of infrastructure, education, and more. All have to be fixed in order for it to face the threats coming from China.
I hope what the book will do is start a serious conversation, first, about the nature of China, and second, about what we have to do, both because of China, but also because of ourselves, because we want to be a better country than we are right now.
The students organizer of the speech echoed his point.
We're not thinking about greater threats. Again, people are too caught up with the orange man in the White House. So it's important for people to understand what's going on a global level, because America really is a global force for good, and we need to realize when people are threatening that with influence that has done nothing but victimize their people for 70 years now.
A Pentagon official says the U.S. needs stricter controls on Chinese students coming to the U.S. to study. This is to prevent the Chinese Communist Party from stealing intellectual property and technology.
On Tuesday, a Pentagon official talked about the threat of Chinese technology theft. An Australian think tank report says China's People's Liberation Army, or PLA, sponsored more than 2,500 military scientists to attend universities overseas in the last decade. The scientists were sent to technologically advanced countries like the US, Australia, Canada, and the UK. The Chinese scientists would disguise their military connections. This collaboration allowed the transfer of knowledge and technology to the PLA.
This is part of China's comprehensive, systematic plan to vacuum technology from around the world.
3 weeks ago, President Trump pushed back on rumors that the U.S. might make it harder for Chinese students to attend American schools.
Get in based on merit. We have incredible talent coming in from China. They occupy a big space in our universities, and we want to keep it that way. Okay?
Michael Brown suggested closer scrutiny of Chinese students' backgrounds.
So we can't just have the barn door open and let there be no consequences. So we, unfortunately, have to be more mindful of vetting some of the students and then putting in some basic protections.
On Tuesday, U.S. Senator Josh Hawley introduced legislation to address national security threats via U.S. academic institutions. Congressman Mark Walker introduced the House companion. Their main concern is the Chinese Communist Party using Chinese students as agents to steal U.S. technology. Reporting by Kitty Wong, NTD News.
Up next, a fruit carver shares his thoughts on learning to carve avocados. More on what made this third-generation fisherman become a world champion of fruit designs. More on that after the break.
Factual,
honest news.
Not biased, but completely straightforward.
You're not emotionally going up and down.
Bringing morality back to newspapers.
Be honest, old-fashioned journalism.
You're presenting the facts and letting the reader decide.
The Epoch Times is a fearlessly independent news media that publishes in 35 countries and 21 languages. Truth and tradition is our motto. Founded as an antidote to communist propaganda, today we're quickly becoming a household name across America. Our subscribers thank us for our relentless and unbiased coverage.
I've been part of the Epoch Times for nearly a decade. The
because I've seen there's no other major media outlet in the world as devoted to real journalism. The Epoch Times has never had any corporate or political agenda. We only serve our readers, and we'll stay that way, no matter what.
We connected the dots around Spygate, the Obama administration's elaborate efforts against Trump's 2016 campaign. We often break news months ahead of other media on topics such as Chinese espionage, cyber warfare, subversion in America, and more. But our authoritative reporting didn't only just begin. We are tried and true.
Our paper was born out of the need to respond to a human rights catastrophe in China. It was enabled by the Communist Party's vicious and dishonest propaganda. We soon learned that Western media were picking up and amplifying the lies. The Epoch Times' truthful reporting exposed the Communist Party's lies for the Chinese people. But it also helped protect our Western audience. It disabused for them the lies in this propaganda. Our reporting has also helped uncover how communist ideas are taking root in our own country. The Epoch Times started as a small and unknown publication in one of the toughest media markets in the world. We have built it through hard work and trial and error.
We were founded in the year 2000 in Atlanta, Georgia, by Chinese Americans who had fled communist China. Our independent reporting came at a price. Our staff members in China were jailed and tortured for their reporting, some for as long as 10 years. Because our founders believed in truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, the principles of the spiritual practice fallen gone. They felt such sacrifices were worth it to ensure for the world an independent, honest media, one that would report on the most pressing issues of our time. As many major media are losing people's trust and declining further every day, the fastest growing newspaper in America delivers truth and tradition. Look us up today.
Twitter's CEO said today that the social media platform will ban political advertising around the world. CEO Jack Dorsey wrote that the power of internet advertising brings significant risks to politics because it could be used to influence votes. He argues that reach should be earned instead of bought. The company is also stopping issue-based ads which could be used to circumvent the political ad ban. The final policy will be released November 15th and will go into effect November 22nd. Now we turn to the life of a carver who won the world over with his avocado art. And today Sherwin Rong has the story.
One has to be very dedicated to wake up at 5 a.m. and work until midnight every day.
I believe when you love something, it's like, if you love your job, it's like you never worked in your entire life.
Daniele Baresi, born and raised in Italy, now calls Sydney, Australia home. The two-time world champion carving designer grew up as a third-generation fisherman, but now he is chasing his passion for artistic fruit carving.
But their life is a hard life, and thanks to their life, inspired me to do even more, because I'm a hard worker. Like, I never give up.
He fell in love with the art form 10 years ago after he saw a beautifully carved pumpkin and was motivated to create his own.
The first artwork for me is the best. And because I really liked it, that gave me inspiration to go ahead.
Each day he practiced with one goal in mind, to make his passion a reality. His artwork has received heartwarming attention from around the world, which motivates him to continue improving and challenging himself.
I never say I can't do that because I want to try. And then I say, well, at least I tried. When you make a mistake, never feel frustrated. Think on it, focus on it, and you're gonna end up doing something special.
His years of hard work paid off in 2017 when his avocado art went viral on Instagram.
And then I did a beautiful design, which I never thought I can do that on an avocado.
Now he is challenging himself to carve other materials, something he never believed he could do before.
Like today, I can't say I'm like yesterday, but I can't even say I'm like tomorrow. Tomorrow I think I'm gonna be better than today. That's what I always think.
Baresi strives to make the impossible possible. Reporting by Shuan Rong, NTD News.
Up next, film director Roland Emmerich completes his dream project midway. A film about the decisive World War II battle is produced with the help of the U.S. Navy. More on his artistic journey after the break. German film director Roland Emmerich's dream project Midway is finally set to be released in November. Emmerich has been thinking about the film for 20 years, hoping to one day finish it as he worked on other films.
Known for big-budget disaster movies filled with special effects like Independence Day and Godzilla, Emmerich long wanted to recount the battle in the Pacific during which U.S. forces defeated an attacking Japanese fleet. The war film focuses on real-life events from the Battle of Midway in World War II. It was a clash by air and sea, which pivoted the Allied forces towards victory. The battle took place in June 1942, 6 months after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor and 1 month before the Battle of the Coral Sea. The film focuses on real-life U.S. Navy bomber pilot Richard Dick Best, played by British actor Ed Skrein. Emmerich said he worked with the U.S. Navy to make the movie about having to convince some officials about the production.
I had to talk to the admiral who was running Pearl Harbor. And he was like very dismissive. He said, this is one of these Hollywood movies who like kind of has a cheesy love story and uses our battle or our soldiers to tell it. And I said, well, not really. And I said, my movie is about Dick Best. And it was like kind of nearly the sun coming in, the choirs were playing. And from that moment, he was like so supportive. He said, you get everything what you want. And he ended up even being an extra.
A special screening of Midway was held in Hawaii for U.S. Navy members at the base. The movie also stars Woody Harrelson, Dennis Quaid, Luke Evans, Aaron Eckhart, and Nick Jonas.
And that's all for today's NTD News. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paul Graney.